Let me remark that under our Constitution, we should have met in April, largely because we were still struggling with vaccinations and other matters that captured the attention of the Atlanta School and we had to defer holding the AGM until now. So this is the annual AGM, which by Constitution should take place in every April. I'm very happy that today it's possible for us to gather here at every chapel. There are over 50 people already online, and so there are more people participating online than those of us here. Be assured that hopefully by the end of the meeting, we will have over 100 people joining us. So welcome to this meeting. Shall we have a roll call? Accra Jewel Nete is not here, so I'm inviting Accra Harold Seku to lead us in the roll call.
Thank you very much, Accra Prof. President. I want to see those who are 30 to 1940 years old, if anybody is here. 2 years ago, we had Accra Kedi Asante over here, and he represented. So we want to know if there's anybody else, 30 to 40. Okay, so 40 to 50. 1941 to 1950, if anyone is here. Any of the year groups. Online also, if you are there, please, you can lift your hands. We'll be able to see it. 41 to 50. Okay, so 51 to 1960. 51 to 60. Let's give a big round of applause. A big round of applause. Please, we'll be grateful if you introduce yourself. You know, some of the executives were not born when you got that. House. Which year specifically? 1958. Oh, another round of applause. Now 1961 to 70. 61 to 70. Wow. A big round of applause with our own executive member, Accra, Dr. Kwame Bachi, from 63. So now we are getting into the modern era. Oh, most of them have retired. So we want to acknowledge the presence of Accra Prof. Ivan Adai-Mensah. 1971 to 80. 71 to 80. 71, 73, 78. Oh, 75, 75. Okay, so 71, 73, 73, 75, 78. Another round of applause for them. 81 to 90. 81 to 90. Oh, you can clap for us. You can clap for us. 81 to 90. I hope all of you are online since we are mourning. We can't allow the those in the 70s to be here. 91 to 2000. 91 to 2000. 2001 to 2010. one outside. 2023. We have at least, we have 3 of them over here. And then the last batch from 2011 to 2020. Thank you all very much for coming. Accra Prof.
Thank you very much, Harold. Shall we take a look at the minutes of our meeting held on the 26th of July 2020? I'm assuming that you had a chance to read the minutes since you received them earlier. Are there any corrections on page 1? Page 2. Page 3. Page 4. Page 5. Page 6. Then we have as appendix the list of attendees on pages 7 and 8. If there are no corrections to be made to the minutes, can I get a motion from the floor for us to adopt this as a true record of our deliberations on Sunday, 26 July 2020? Accra Bishop moves, seconded by Admiral Lamnemisa. Thank you very, very much. Then we go to matters arising, and I'll brief you as necessary. The first item is the OA Tallow Science project. You recall that on 20th of March last year, we handed over the basic structure to the school, and that was just before the Founders Day, and we indicated that we were constructing 4 pavilions, which will be commissioned later. I'm happy to report that those 4 pavilions have been completed, and last December, we named them after the 1974, 1975, 1976, and 1989 year groups. There was a short ceremony at the project site, and this was done. They were named after these groups because they contributed more than $20,000 to the Science Block project. I'm happy also that at the handing over ceremony, the year groups, those 4 year groups, pledged to furnish the pavilions with the benches. And these benches were going to cost 7,200 cedis per pavilion. 2 of the year groups have completed payment for the pavilions, and the 2 others have either partially made payment or made no payment at all. So we'll be chasing these 2 year groups to complete payment so that the fully furnished pavilions can also be handed over to the school. I would like to report that the school has not yet started using the new science block, and the main reason being the fact that the COVID came soon after we had finished, and the school was for several months not functioning as the students were made to go home. And since they came back, it's very partial. Apart from that, the proper equipment has also not been provided by the GES, and there are no chemicals and so on. So we met with the school authorities a couple of months ago and took inventory of what needed to be provided in order that the science block will be used fully. The school has made it known to us that they want to open it to the senior high school 2, the second year students. The SHS 3 to use in preparation for the examinations, and then gradually to be extended to the second year, and then finally to the first year students. There's a list of items that they need to make this happen. We've taken receipt of this, and now we are looking at how best we can provide that. I'm very happy to report that Accra Yawabene Amponsah here, leading his year group 1991, has managed to get us some support. So tomorrow morning, we will be receiving a check for 150,000 Ghana cedis from Geodrill. We also approached MTN Ghana Foundation, again through Yao, and we are expecting support also, and we are expecting additional support from BP Oil Ghana. So I would like on this occasion to express my deepest appreciation to the effort that Yao has made to get us moving. Hopefully, before the next academic year starts, the OA Talo Science Block will be fully furnished and ready for use with everything required. The next item on the matters arising is the website registration. I will let the Executive Secretary talk about the website, how it's functioning, how it is not functioning, and then we'll take it from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Apache. The OA website has been online for over a year now, and provision was made for all Accras to register online. But to date, only 645 Accras have registered, and there are many more Accras around who haven't. Some had challenges registering, and when they referred it to us, we guided them and helped them, and they were able to register. These details Accras gave will help us expand our database. We are trying to do this in order to be able to reach Accras in specific categories, either by a house or by year group or by profession, etc. The challenges of the registration have been addressed either by Accras following the Secretariat or by using the step-by-step flyer or video that we circulated. Very soon there will be an animation as well to guide Accras on how to register. So we are appealing to all Accras to do their best to register, because we really need these details and we need the website to function as it is. Because when we post information there, it means it's just a handful of Accras getting it, and it doesn't make it efficient. Now, Accras have expressed misgivings about giving their details because of privacy and all that. But we wish to assure them that the data they provide for us is secure, and they have the option to choose what they want online and what can be held by the Secretariat. The Secretariat will hold the entire data, but put what needs to go online. And we will not, I repeat, we will not either sell or give Accra details to any third party for whatever reason. So we need Accra to help us build this registration base, which we're going to move on to our database. There's provision for Accra communities on it by class or by house, and the fund begins to start meeting different people outside your regular group and all that. So if you haven't registered, kindly register and take part in what is happening there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So she's covered both the website registration and then the database. The next item there is the OA Secretariat facelift office complex. I will defer mentioning that I will talk about it again in the President's report, which will be more elaborate. We go then to the newsletter. Any comments from the Secretariat?
The member championing the newsletter project is unwell. We're trying to get her online because she promised to walk us through what has been done. So if we could carry on, and when she comes online, we go back to her for.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions on any of the matters arising that members would wish to have?
Sitting Rock, understand what she has done is being streamed online right now.
Oh, for the
For the newsletter.
Okay. I think Yaya Boate is trying to explain how she structured the newsletter. We're having difficulty getting her. Yeah.
Five minutes. So it's shareable on WhatsApp and also other social media platforms as well. So that's what we've done now with our newsletter. We turned it into a video format, and that's what we currently have. Currently, it's called Ashimota School Briefs. So it's just brief news happening in the school, out of the school, and that's what we currently have. So Ashimota, and we're just wrapping up a work on it, and we'll share it.
Thank you very much, Accra Yaya Boate. Are there any questions or comments on any of the matters that have been?
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes, so we're almost done with the video. We have a sample. I don't know if you're able to hear it. If you can look at my page,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes, I need to know there's an echo in your presentation. And I think there is someone else in the microphone who has joined the meeting. Maybe they can mute.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hello. The echo is I'm by myself. It's not on my end.
Okay, Accra, yes, I think we've understood you. We would like to move on. Any questions, comments on any of the matters that we've raised so far? Okay.
Prof, just a quick word. Yaya is unwell, that's why she wasn't able to come and is doing it online. I should have been here to present it herself. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to present now the President's report by our statutes. The President should present a report at any AGM. So, Gloria, are you good? I think that, yeah, let's move this so that we can see. I can see the presentation. Okay, so next slide. Yeah. The basic introduction we have for this presentation is to let you know or remind you of how the COVID situation affected us last year. So most of the activities of the OAA were affected by the pandemic, making it difficult for us to meet. We were very lucky that last year we had the Founders Day celebration a couple of weeks before the lockdown. And after that, the OAA was forced to suspend all activities. Whatever we did had to be done using virtual means. So that's the point that we make. So the activities have been reported at the annual general meeting, the memorial and Thanksgiving service for the departed actors, the Festival of Nine Lessons and Carols, all of which we held virtually. I am happy to report that our secretariats responded very, very well. They were able to cope with the requirements, even though we had not been set up for doing virtual meetings. They responded as required. It didn't cost us too much. They were working from home most of the time, and we were able to do it. I'm very happy that the executive committee also did likewise, responding as required, able to attend virtual meetings and made the work of the OA quite pleasant, I must say. So I thank all of them and hope that we'll continue until we get back to the normal situation. One of the things that we are happy to report on is the functioning website, which the Executive Secretary has just given us more detail about. So there are 645 people who have registered so far. We believe we can do far better. We have the means to engage with our press on YouTube. We have the means to engage with our press on Facebook and also on Twitter. These are the means we've used to invite you to meetings and to other events. And we hope that you can subscribe to them if you haven't and be able to access what we do. One complaint I received from our press of all generations, especially the younger ones, that the OA does not communicate adequately, that we don't communicate. I believe that in the last couple of years, we have changed considerably. And I hope our press will acknowledge that. Now on social media, we don't joke. We are among the alumni associations in this country that use social media quite considerably. And I do hope that there will be some reciprocity. So as we invest in it, we expect our press to respond. Please engage with us on Facebook, engage on Twitter, engage with WhatsApp. The WhatsApp platforms are quite active, but they tend to discuss usually non-Accra matters. They discuss anything, and then a few Accra controversial matters. What they don't like, you see on WhatsApp. What they like, you will not see. So please use social media to move the course of Achimota School and the OA further than it is today. The database, we've already explained the challenges we've had and the promises that we are given with respect to the protecting the privacy of whatever data you give us about yourselves. The database has become important largely because of younger Akures who want to know what Akures are doing so they can have access to them and do some kind of networking. In today's world, networking is everything. So if we don't know who is doing what, it becomes difficult to guide young Akures as they seek support, whatever they are doing. So please help us to identify what we are doing and so on. I talk about the Achimota School and the Rastafarian saga. I mention it because it would be hypocritical, really, for us to have a meeting of all Achimotas at this time and pretend that it didn't happen. It has happened. It is going to be with us for a long time to come. There are 3 points I want to make about here. That Achimota School got the news for all the wrong reasons. Nobody would like Achimota School to be in the news because we are doing something that everybody is proud of. At this time, even though we didn't do anything onto it, we are simply enforcing our rules with what is in the news, and everybody is talking about us. So the case went to court, and as you all know, we lost the case in court. We lost the case in court. That's the school board. The school board was the one that was sued. There were 2 cases, one from Tyrone Magai and then in Krabia. Both cases we lost for the same reasons. The judge ruled that the decision to enforce the school rules with respect to haircuts effectively denied them the opportunity to practice their religion. So that was the ruling that the judge gave several reasons why it was preventing them from exercising or enjoying their rights as under the Constitution. We disagreed as we publicized already, and so the school board has appealed, and OAA supported the school board in the first instance, and the OAA has pledged to support the school board again in the appeal. I'd be very happy to hear your views on this matter when the time comes. I talked about the lands and then the Secretariat building. On the lands, there hasn't been any major development since the last time we met. Last time we met, the most important thing was that the Supreme Court had ruled in favor of the school with regard to the land that the Usu Mankrali was trying to take away. And that Supreme Court ruling was overarching. In fact, it gave the school board capacity to take decisions on all lands, regardless of location, so long as it belonged to Achimota School. We proceeded to get assistance from the government through the president to create a trust that will manage the school land on behalf of the school, and also give the trust the authority to lease or alienate a part of the land to third parties. We only do that with the permission of the president. That permission was given. So we proceeded, started making arrangements for the putting in place a trust deed that will show which parties were responsible for managing the water school lands and any revenues that will come out of that arrangement. I must say, we've not been happy with the way things have evolved. The Minister of Education took it upon himself to lead the process of preparing the trust deed. And in that process, made himself a trustor of Achimota School lands, which the OAA strongly objects to. The colonial government, in its wisdom, handed over the entire land of the school to the governing council of Achimota School, not the Ministry of Education, not the Department of Education, not the government or anything. It handed everything to the governing council. Why? It wanted it to be handled by an independent body that had responsibility for the school and the school only. That was the sense behind it. That was the same sense that made it necessary. That was only the governor, and by extension, only the president, can give permission, not parliament, not Ministry of Education, nothing whatsoever. Only the president. The assumption being that the president will be impartial. The president will have the interest of Achimota School at heart and soul. So anything, if you follow the Supreme Court ruling, anything that makes any other person, apart from the governing council, the trustor of the Achimota School lands, is or cannot be in the interest of Achimota School. That's why we have objected to it, and that's why we are trying to engage the Ministry of Education on this matter. And if it fails, if we are unable to reason with the Ministry of Education, that it cannot be. Indeed, if you look at the Board of Trustees that they've established, OA is what we represented. We went to court and fought for the land for the school, and the minister has prepared a trust deed that excludes clearly the OA from any involvement with the money management. It's unacceptable. I'll be happy to hear your views on this. And then we talked about the Secretariat. Several times over the last several years, people have spoken about the inadequacy of office space at the school clubhouse. We talked about the need to revamp the place, modernize the place, and so on. Just to assure you that the executive committee has discussed this fully, and we are in the process of developing plans for not only modernizing where we are currently, but there's a longer term agenda of the putting up a building that we can use somewhere on the periphery of Achimota school lands that can be also used for commercial engagements to generate revenue for OA. So these are the long-term things that we have. But in the next few months, we actually mobilize resources. We'll begin work on modernizing our office at the levels. A major thing that we'll be talking about today is the trust fund. And very soon I'll invite the chair of the board of trustees of the trust fund to give us highlights. But what's important, that for the OA Executive Committee, the Achimota School Endowment Trust Fund should be a major part of whatever we do as old Achimotas to help the school regain whatever. And so we are talking about how to recapitalize the Endowment Trust Fund over the next 12 months with $1 million, and before the school turns 100 years old with $10 million. We do this as part of a broader scheme to prepare for a new Achimota. So what is this new Achimota? The new Achimota we are talking about is the Achimota that you knew 20 years ago, or 30 years ago, or 40 years ago, 50. An Achimota that produced men and women that everybody in this country was proud of. But mindful of the fact that in the new world, technology is what makes a big difference. The technology has changed the way teaching and learning are done anywhere in the world. So how do we get into a new situation where students from Achimota School are able to compete globally by virtue of their access to the newest technologies and teachers who are well-versed, well-skilled in the use of technologies and engaging in an interactive manner with students. So in that new Achimota, the technology is going to be a big difference. Yesterday, I was very happy that the 1997 year group invited me to a launch of the legacy project. They are turning 25, and so they are responsible for a legacy project for to mark their Silver Jubilee celebration. And they are going to lay fiber optic cables around the entire campus. Currently, Eastern Compound will be extended to the Western Compound. So we'll have cheaper access to connectivity, and that will make it easier for all the buildings on the school compound to be connected, and the students and teachers will have access to cheaper connectivity and be able to use this in a more effective way to modernize. So the OAA is investing through the year groups massively in modernizing Achimota School for the future. The challenge is how do you keep making these investments when you cannot have a say in the governance. That's what we want to change for the new Achimota. We want to change that. We want all Achimotas to be part of the governance arrangements. Currently, we are part of it by virtue of having 2 slots on the school board. This has been extremely useful over the years, and that's something that we seek to maintain. But there are signs. There are signs that this might not be the case in the near future. There are signs that we are beginning to centralize the management of senior high schools in Ghana. There are signs that the Ministry of Education would like to be actively engaged in the management, not in the policy making, in the management of schools, in a manner that takes away the contributions or downplay the contributions of other stakeholders. These other stakeholders may be alumni associations like ours or parents. And it's important that we engage with the appropriate authorities to deal with these issues. The OAA Executive Committee has begun work on this. We are convening on the 24th of June a meeting of 26 alumni, the associations around the country, the usual suspects, the people that we consider to be our peers. Prophet Alison, our real peers, not the Accra ones. I know you were concerned about the people I was looking at that last Friday, but our real peers. So we'll meet on the 24th of June. I spoke to all of them individually, and they have the same concerns as we do. Everybody is concerned about how the governance of schools in Ghana is being affected largely for political reasons, and that we want to stop that. So in the new Achimota, we want to raise resources for the school, and we want to be part of the management of those resources to be used principally for bringing our students to the cutting edge. That's what so we are going to prepare a plan which we will share with you, and in that plan you will see how technology will be made available, teaching teachers how to teach, teaching students how to learn, teaching management how to run a school, how to manage a school like Achimota. So managing Achimota school is not like managing some small school in the, I won't mention it. So that's what we want to do in the new, and we need your help as we move. Next slide. So for the immediate, I'm appealing to all our press and their friends and families to contribute $1 million. Right now, we have only about $42,000 in the kitty for the Achimota School Endowment Trust Fund. We want to raise it from $42,000 to $1 million within a year. It looks quite daunting. It looks like a huge task. It is a huge task. It is. Nobody can pretend that $1 million is nothing. No, nobody can do that. But as you already reminded us, if 1,000 press give $1,000 each, we are there. Where will we find 1,000 press? So even if you don't find 1,000, but we find 500, and then another 5,000 press gave us $100, $200, $300 here and there, we will make it. We will make it. There are many of you, many of us who are interested and willing to do it, and so we can do it. I'm very happy that already, as soon as we mentioned 8 people, I see 3 of them in this room today, 8 people have said, I'll give you $1,000. If I one of them, I'm trying to persuade him to change it from 1,000 to 5,000. But we will get there if today there are 3 in this room. If by the time we are leaving, another 10, either here or online, have made their pledges, it will be a good example for those who are not in this meeting or outside. So ladies and gentlemen, over to you. Next slide. So let me finish my remarks by talking about the ideas that we have basically wish to transform the school so that the school will play the role for which it was set up. The school was set up to lead the transformation of this country from a colonially run country to one that was run by its own people. We've done it for several years, but we can do better. That's the mission at Achimota School for the future. Let us all do our best, and in so doing, we can be a part of that change. And one day when we are not here, we'll be remembered for being the agents of change, bringing Achimota School back to what it was supposed to do, and contributing to the transformation of Ghana. Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Let me invite, as an extension of what we just done, 2 people to come and talk about their projects. I've told them they have 5 minutes each So the 1971 year group is 50 years old this year. And they, as their legacy project, are trying to provide solar power to the whole school, reducing the dependence on ECG. That's a very laudable thing. So Accra, Ama is here to speak to that, and I'll call him in a minute. And Accra the family votes you. Of course, from his name, we know which political party he belongs to. Here, the Bokada Mason has the same political party. But he's not here to talk politics. Not so. He is the president of the 1997 year group, and they are doing the fiber optic cabling of the school. So, Amame will speak for 5 minutes, and then Kwame will speak for 5 minutes on what they are doing, so that you can see how the change is happening through this record. Okay. I understand 71 and 81 are working together. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is Akora Bullock from 81 year group. This is a joint, the legacy project for 2021 is a joint undertaking of 71 and 81 year group. It started off as a 71 year group project, and then eventually, it started off as a 71 year group in April 2019. I think soon after the AGM passed, the decision was passed to do this jointly, 50 and 40 year group. So the 81 year group are now with us. And then after the 71 year group finished the sort of the blueprint, how to use solar to electrify the Achimota School campus. The headmistress requested support from the government through the Ministry of Energy on the scaling up renewable energy project. And so the team that is actually doing the work right now involves the 81 year group, the 71 year group, senior officials from ECG, the Ministry of Energy's Directorate for Renewable Energy, and then the Energy Commission's Renewable Energy Group. So let me briefly say that the blueprint is to use facilities at Achimota School, basically the rooftops of some of our buildings, to produce solar energy to feed into the ECG grid. And based on the regulation we have, you net it out of the supply you get from ECG. And as a customer, Achimota School can go as far as going to net zero, meaning that we produce and put into the ECG grid as much electricity as we take from them on an annual cycle. So that's the blueprint. And it requires investing in solar facilities on some of the rooftops, reducing the losses of electricity within the school, meaning that the school network is very old, so there's a lot of loss of electricity. And then also the wiring in the buildings are overaged and also losing a lot of electricity. So that's what the blueprint constitutes. As I said, in April, we switched to the 71-year group handed over to the technical committee involving the bigger group, and the master plan for implementation is complete, meaning that we have detailed drawings and implementation plan for the old assembly hall and the new assembly hall ready to go when funding is in place. And also we have up-to-date modern electrical wiring drawings for each of the 15 old houses, down plus the assembly hall. Sorry, the administration block. Third is we finished the funding plan, which is we'll try always to do one of the projects, the old assembly hall, as a pilot demonstration. But the Ministry of Energy, through the Scaling Up Renewable Energy Program, which is to be funded by African Development Bank, will pick up the modernization of their whole network, ECG. It will turn the network into a smart grid with fiber optic capabilities. It will also finish the new assembly hall, and then at least do the administration block. But we realize that for the 15 dorms, we have to also find ways of funding it. So we brought this to the attention of the executive, and now we're working with them on how to proceed. But on the funding side, we need to get pledges of about 300,000 CDs by the end of June in order to kickstart the construction of the old assembly hall, the solar system. And then we have 9 months to finish paying for that. In September, the African Development Bank and the ministry will work out funding for the remainder. And hopefully by December, we'll have the funding in place for the registration block, rewarding administration block, finishing off the network. The network, the ECG network is very important to fix because the losses are huge. I think this is one of the areas that we definitely need government involvement. The fundraising is led by the 81-year group.
Yes, we are leading the fundraising effort, but anybody who also wants to help can follow us or call us and get involved. It's a project that we lead. It's a project for all of us. So anybody who has any little help can call us and then we collaborate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, distinguished executives, senior and junior Akoras, all protocol observed. To borrow from my party, self-government for OE now. That is speaking for the human tradition. And to borrow from the Dankwa Kuzia tradition, Akoras beyond age. With this in mind, OA 97, we had a number of projects to look through. It even included expansion of the Agri-Chapel. When we were here, we were just 1,500 students, and yet we couldn't fit. And now it's 4,000. But we looked through a large number of projects and realized that for the new normal that we are in, with lessons being held online, the best project is an e-learning project, which would include upgrading the ICT infrastructure of the school to international standards. And with me here today to go into the nitty-gritties of that in just 3 or 4 minutes, I have my General Secretary here, Ralph Nitete Amlamu, in the back there. And I also have Stephen Kemeche, who is the Legacy Committee Chairman. And we are doing everything in-house in the spirit of Akoras Beyond Age. And our project, the first phase costs less than $100,000 for the first phase. And similar projects elsewhere have cost millions of dollars, only because our ICT contractor is one of our mates. He's not taking any consultation, no profit, nothing whatsoever. I will now invite Akora Kemeche to go through the rest.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll pick up right from where Ocho left off. And also, our project is in 3 stages, and it's all structured to come together to improve or address our theme, which is making Achimota School an ICT center of excellence. So first, we are to lay the fiber optic cable on campus, and then we will subscribe to Google Classroom for the school or on behalf of the school, and then we will train the teachers on how to use the platform. So in terms of the fiber optic infrastructure, we are laying it on the eastern compound across or along the oval, and then extending it into facilities within the oval and outside the oval. So if you see the red line is actually where the fiber cable is passing. Then the red line represents the technical team tells us 41. Thank you. The red line represents 42 core fiber optic cable, and my understanding is that one core alone could power the entire school, which means that you have quite some amount of redundancy. Then a 2-core cable is in the green that links the 42 core to the various buildings. So for now, first part of the project, we are connecting Agri Chapel, the admin block, the science, all the science, the old science labs, the OA Talo science block, the new assembly hall, the old assembly hall, all the houses, the OA secretariat. Yeah, we just added the headmistress's house as well. And then again, the key thing is that the infrastructure can carry data, it can carry voice, it can carry video. So we are looking forward to a situation where we could have, as my project contractor was saying yesterday, our colleague was saying yesterday, we could have a church service where each house goes to their common room in the house, and we build the church service for them to be part of. So that is the kind of infrastructure that we are laying. Work has begun some days ago. So if you go to, starting from the clubhouse, we began laying the 42 core cable along the oval. Next. Okay, so work has begun. We are hoping that in about a week we will finish laying on the cable, and then we will now go into one of the ICT labs where we will start installing the equipment that will power the entire infrastructure. The second aspect is the subscription to the Google Classroom. We have contacted Google because we couldn't afford, or the school couldn't afford, to subscribe to the commercial version of the platform. So we wanted the free version. And the free version, of course, is available to public schools like ours, but with certain conditions that we needed to meet. So they gave us 6 of those conditions. Most of them are business as usual. There were only 2 that were quite substantial and we wanted to address. But we also want to, as part of the project, have or provide each student an Achimota domain email address. So Anakura reserved many years ago the Achimota domain, achimota.edu.gh, and he was willing to relinquish it to the school. He has done so. And a website development team has been working for some years back. We joined them because Google has told us that the schools that they sponsor with this facility must have a functioning website. So it was very good that we could just approach the website team, and we started working with them. One of our colleagues is a writer. We've actually asked him to start writing the content. He sent to the team the first cut. We'll compile it all by the middle of July. We should have all the content created, submitted to the school for approval, and then the website will be up. Then also, Google requested us to show them what they call the institution's official accreditation. In discussion with the school management, we've written to the management, they've added their letter, we sent it to GES, requesting for some document that we could send to Google for the subscription to be granted to us free of charge. Then, with regard to teacher capacity building, the idea again is to improve or build on a project that has already begun somewhere during the COVID. Accra Dr. Asian of GIS, who is principal of GIS, approached the school and started a pilot with 5 teachers to train them as training the trainer to come and train the others so they could start engaging students on Google Classroom. We pick up that project and we are expanding it to include all 200 plus teachers. We began by administering a questionnaire to the teachers. We met them on Zoom about a week ago, and so far about over 25% of them have completed the form that we gave them. The form will help us categorize them into those with basic skills, intermediate skills, and advanced skills. We will train the trainers who will help us train the rest and maintain the system. The training is scheduled for July and August. Our hope is that by the 4th quarter of this year, we will have completed the fiber optic cable infrastructure. We will have completed the Google Classroom subscription and completed also the training of the teachers. Make the facility available for use long before 1st quarter next year, when we are actually celebrating our 25th anniversary. If you want to help us with contribution, these are our accounts. We will share this presentation on all OA platforms, and you can also contact us and we will give to you. Please, next. Yeah, we need to recognize the support we received so far. From the very beginning, we engaged all the key stakeholders. The board chair met us at the secretariat, gave us his input. The headmistress and her team have been extremely supportive. We write to them that we want a contractor to come or contractors, because initially we had contractors before we chose, to come and take measurement and give us a bill. And within 48 hours, the letter was responded to. And the support has been like that since. The OA National President has been very supportive. Even yesterday, he emphasized again his support for this project. And indeed, it's even in the plan of the National OA. And we are very grateful for that. The Secretariat and Accra Unis, we are most grateful for all the support. Your place is where we congregate. Even sometimes print our document before we submit. Accra Dr. Mary Shen has been of great support. And then Accra Mankwa and his team were building the website that we are supporting them to complete. And one of our colleagues owned Volta Palm Enterprise, which is an IT firm, an IT infrastructure firm, who is working for us. The president mentioned that he's doing it all basically for free, except for the cost of the project itself. These are our contacts, fundraising at oa97.com, and then our number. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very, very much. OA 1971, 1981, and 1997. Any comments, questions, or any of the things you've heard this afternoon? Yes, yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. It may be a bit late in the day, but it looks to me the two groups are doing the same thing, right? They are complementary, because to have a smart grid with fiber optic capability, you're going to lay a fiber network. Meanwhile, 1997 is also laying a fiber network. For your SCADA capability to use a fiber to monitor the network, you will use less than 1% of the capacity of the fiber. And 42 core is enterprise, it powers cities, right? So, and both of you are appealing for funds. So then it makes sense to simply talk to each other and maybe reconcile your designs and see how you can reduce the cost of the project for each of them. Also, I would like to get in touch with you because one of the things that we're doing as OA executive is to train teachers, not just in the use of Google Classroom, but to improve their performance and the educational outcomes. And we are working with Accra Federation, who is a member of the educational subcommittee, and also I'm sure, I know the consultant that she's probably using for you. So again, it makes sense for us to get in touch with you since it's all training of teachers. So I will reach out to you, get your contact so we can work together. Thank you.
Edmund, you can shout.
Okay, so probably in the same way. Can you hear me?
Well, anyway, this sounds like AOB. Yeah, so something similar about the laying of the pipes. Since it started, just like we are going to lay the pipes, the first concern is making sure that we know where pipelines and stuff are, water pipelines, so that we don't go and damage stuff. And I want to suggest that we could then put in the culvert, forgot the exact name, the duct, so that it can be redundant for the future. If you are going to put only this fiber, and maybe later we'll be thinking of making street lights and other things, and all these can pass through the same gap so that we don't have to be digging around like we see in the city. Thank you. Should I go ahead with our two-man? Well, since Prof has put me on the carpet, let me. 1989 was the highest donors for the science group. Until date, our plaque is not up.
There's a whole, pavilion named after 89. Any other questions, comments? Yes. Yeah, please come.
My comments. I want to ask to reflect on one of the agendas, which is the new Achimota. In fact, it's critical as a strategic planner, it's critical we were able to know our stand as an organization and be truthful to ourselves. We are not a good stand, we are just relying on our words, to be frank. So, this is a time we all have to come together to devise strategies, plans to carry us forward. We've done it before, as Prof said, we've done it before. So my agenda is that before we celebrate the centenary, that's the 100 years, the National Science and Maths Schools must take 12. That's my agenda. And I've started with them. I started with the first years during the orientation. I told them, before we celebrate the 100 years, we must take the NSM, we must take 3. At least 3. It must be part of the objectives, the achievements we have. Yes, we can do it. This is comparing to our past achievement, this is nothing. We can do it. We can do it, it's possible. We must go back to the real basis. We must go back to that glorious days. And we can do it. We can do it, it's possible. So let's all come together, mobilize resources, and give the Achimota the new position or the position it deserves. Well, thank you very much.
would like to respond to the earlier.
Accra President, thank you very much. Right here, we have support and you align with the other year groups as well. But just to provide an additional information, we actually not laying the fiber cables underground. We are using the poles that are around. So we are not digging. That is why our cost is also manageable. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions on anything that we mentioned this afternoon?
Thank you, Mr. President. When we came to SS1 in 1995, one of the first statements that stuck with me till today was by Akora Charlotte Graves. She said, don't just pass through Achimota, allow Achimota to pass through you. And a few days ago, I came to Secretariat, and on my way out, I saw the two students walking with a teacher up the hill. And it was as if they were in heaven. You could sense their sense of relief that they were at home. And as a legal practitioner myself, I wouldn't want to go into the nitty-gritties of the case. And looking at the boys and the joy on their faces and everything, I believe Achimota has enough rules to stop, and even the Constitution itself and the laws of Ghana. I believe that we don't risk opening the floodgates to anything negative as long as they are well supervised. And we have enough rules to get any students out in case of misbehaving. My time, our headmistress was very strict, and I remember a time I went to the swimming pool and we had a list had been put on the board of expelled students. So we always come swimming and we ran there. And some of those I was running with, their names were there. So we're there, the water was dripping and we didn't know what to do. So it is up to the board, but I believe that I would side with us allowing things to be. If another case rises up, we can pursue it. But regarding the appeal, I would say we should allow sleeping dogs to lie, rather keep an eye on the boys and other students, because we do have the rules, we do have the rule book, we do have enough structures in place to make sure that nothing untoward happens. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, there are many parties around.
Technically, one seventh of the Ghana population. Yes, a quick comment on what you just said. I think I understand where you're coming from. But you know, consistency is also important. And fairness across, I think for that reason alone, we need to look at this very, very carefully. I don't think anybody, I think as the President has insisted, we are not denying them access, But why are we here as all Achimotas? There's a set of things which shaped and molded us. We have to make sure that we don't lose that. And in a lot of my travels around, particularly African countries, why aren't we killing each other in Ghana? It is not because we are special. It is because of our boarding school system, the kinds of systems we went through. That's what has molded us into a nation, where we place our classmates first. In fact, most of us are closer to our classmates than we are to our own siblings. And we risk losing some of those things. And I think it is for that reason that we need to think through this very carefully, and not just simply say, let's sleeping dogs now. So that's my first point. The second is the fiber optic. I know you said you're handling it with our poles and so. It doesn't matter. We are creating a services infrastructure. Think of it as not just fiber, but a services infrastructure. even if it's a long pole, you can have electricity using those poles. So think of how do you build that basic infrastructure for all the services as we implement some of these projects. And I'll be quite happy to talk to the team because I have built a few fiber networks, in particular in Nigeria. I've built quite a few fiber networks. So that's some ideas there. And also, the ICT team, we would like you to look at the database. We'd like to tie the database into what you are doing. If you are going to be, the ICT center of excellence, we have to be able to communicate among ourselves. The OAA must be a key component of the ICT, center of excellence, not just the school. Because the school without the OAA is like a body without an arm. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Any, yes sir, I heard it. Right? How is the school paying for their team? Okay. It's been done by the school board. So it will come generally for the school budgets. Yeah. The OAH has not been asked to pay for anything yet. Yes, Professor Davidson.
As a fellow of Ghana American Party,
Yes.
I hope you see abreast within India's activity. Former solicitor, the article was circulated about lawyer Akinti Apiamaka. If you can just re-narrate the story and liken it to what is happening over.
I would like you to
No, you do it.
I really haven't read the whole thing.
I'm sure you have.
I did see the article, but I was not, because I read it fully, but I'll leave many other things. The long and short of it is basically that this is not the first time that we're having to deal with Rastafarians, if I remember right. Yeah, so there are lessons that we can learn from. It's happened before. Stand your ground and you survive. Okay, please.
Well, this was a story retold by Accra Renaissance of the Asante regarding the autobiography of Akinti Apiamaka. He said when he was born into the Tigari fetish. And almost everybody that was born to his mother had died. So the Tigari fetish said that they should never touch, let a bit of his hair fall down. So they tied it into the Rasta type of thing and put some, the pennies that used to have a hole in it, and then cowries on it. And he was told never to go to school. So the uncle visited once and said, you will go to school. So they took him to the SDA school in the village. They said, you won't come to this SDA school unless you cut your hair. And the mother said, no way, I don't want my child to die. You won't cut his hair. And the uncle insisted. So they went back to the same Tigari, and the Tigari man slaughtered 3 fowls. 2 of them died prostrate. The other died with the head down. So the Tigari said, that means that you can cut your hair without dying. So the mother was not satisfied. He said, we shall appeal to Kankamia, which was a stronger fetish at the time. They went to Kankamia. Kankamia too slaughtered 2 fowls. 2 of them died head down, 1 died prostrate. So he said, that shows that if you cut your hair, you will die. And Abiamenka likened Kakamia to the appeals court and Tikari to the original high court. So the appeal to was not satisfied. He said, no, I will appeal to yet another higher deity. So they went to Kokufre, somewhere near Wenchi. And he slaughtered 3 fowls. And 2 of them died prostate, the other died head down. He said, oh, it means you can cut your hair without dying. But before you do that, you have to go back to Tigari, which is the high court, for him to perform certain rituals. So that when you cut your hair. That's how Abiamenka eventually went to school, became a lawyer, became a minister in Buzia's regime, became a member of the investment committee in Liban's regime, and became one of the biggest entrepreneurs the country has ever had. So the moral of it is that we can do the High Court, we can do the Appeal Court, we can do the Supreme Court, we can even do the purification and see where it will end us.
Thank you very much. I think we're going to move on. In response to that, I understand you. I understand the need to avoid bad press by all means, and we are doing everything possible to ensure that. As I've said to several press last Friday when we had the town hall meeting, I made a point. At this case, it's not Achimota School versus 2 young men. No, it's not. You see, so if you leave it as Achimota School versus 2 young men, then you miss that bigger picture. We live in a time that I would describe as an extension of modern liberalism. It's modern liberalism, an African version of that. You know, some may describe it as postmodern. So there are many things that are changing around us, some of which we can control, some of which we cannot control. They happen, and you learn to live with them. But when you see change being forced in a manner that defies your basic rules and will lead to other things that you cannot do anything about, it becomes your responsibility to say, slow down. Let us manage change slowly. It is always good for institutions, whether it's the church, whether it's universities, whether it's schools, to manage change gradually and not have it foisted on you, as is happening in this case. It is not about 2 Rasta young men. I've seen them. I met them in court. They look to me like nice young men. They don't look, especially in Krabia. He looks like a very normal son or grandson. Achimota School will do him a lot of good. And I'm quite sure he has a lot to offer Achimota School. So that wouldn't be a problem at all. But I need to be thinking about the bigger picture. Where is this postmodernism leading us? Where will it end? Who will come next? Who are those riding behind this? There are people who are taking advantage of what is going on, not because they believe in Rastafarianism, but it's Achimota School. So we've got to be careful. I agree with you. Let's do everything we can to avoid bad press, and we will do that. But we've got to keep our eyes wide open. If there are no other questions, comments, shall we move on with the agenda? I invite the elected committee to come back to the table. In the agenda, we have the business of the day, and it was supposed to start with an update on the school lands. I've already done that. So we'll move straight to the Achimota School Endowment Trust Fund, a report from the chair of the Board of Trustees, and then look at the accounts before we continue with the launch of the capital campaign. So now I invite Abraham Mensah to present his report on the Endowment Trust Fund.
In order to save time, I will take it that everybody has read the report. It's quite short. So I will only stress on one important aspect in the report. The NDK, our attempt to improve funds coming into the asset fund. We tried to engage a fund manager whom we thought would also be a fundraiser. So we contacted NDK, which is owned by Accra. And throughout our negotiations with them, we thought they were going to be both fundraisers and fund managers, because they were going to charge quite a hefty percentage on any funds that they manage. At the end of it all, they came and told us that no, they will only manage the funds, that it was up to us to raise funds. And up to that time, and even up to now, our only method of raising funds has been the 500 cedis a year that year groups contribute, which itself is very, very difficult to follow up and collect. So we said, well, it's because we cannot raise funds that we thought you could help us to raise the funds and then manage and then take your percentage. But if we are going to raise the funds and then you will only invest and take that huge chunk, then we didn't think that it was a good deal. So we decided to approach another fund manager, Investor. We had a lot of discussions with them. We met them on a number of occasions. They came and made a presentation. And then, the long and short of it, when they realized that our inflows were dependent mainly on year group contributions, they also said, oh, well, we have so many things to manage and we cannot, take yours on. But it was obvious that it is because we wanted them to also be the fundraisers. So that has now raised the big issue of how we can invigorate the fund and make it a real endowment fund. Endowment funds have a very bad history in this country. The University of Ghana has tried 5 times to have a viable endowment fund. There was one set up when the university was first set up. Adebayo's time, he launched one. My time, I launched one. And next time, he launched one. I think Tego's time, too, he launched one. And the current Vice Chancellor has also launched one. They all don't end up very well. All because of the approach that has been adopted in raising funds for investment. So this is why we want to raise this issue, so that today we can discuss it and see how best to happen. It looks like getting the fund manager has proved not to be the real solution to our problem. Now when we go to our annual accounts, that one too, I won't go into the details. The most important thing is that the auditor has said that we are clean. Our funds have been well managed. Because of COVID, you will see that what is in our coffers for 2020 is slightly lower than what was in the coffers in 2019. Well, partly because 2019 we had bigger inflows because of the relaunch of the fund to coincide with the anniversary celebration. 2020, in spite of the COVID, our administrator has done very, very well. And she managed to get more yearbooks to contribute, even arrears to their contributions. So if you look at our inflows, the 2020 inflow was slightly higher than the 2019 inflows. But overall, our expenditure too went up. Salaries expenditure went up. And we also made a donation of the equivalent of $5,000 towards the science block. And that has made our current total investment go lower than 2019. So on the whole, that is really what our situation is. You can look at the details from the reports that you are holding. If you have any questions, we are here to answer them.
Thank you very much, Accra. Ivan Adang is a board chair for the Endowment Trust Fund. I think yeah, he spoke into it, but yeah. I will invite the treasurer to present the accounts formally to us, and then we will pass it to the motion to accept it. But before doing that, remember I said that we are trying to raise $1 million within the next 12 months. From what the board chair has indicated to us, fundraising has been a major problem. Getting good fund managers has not been easy, and so on. So the executive committee has discussed this in some detail and has proposed some solutions which we believe can enhance the fundraising capacity of the trust fund considerably. And also in doing that, help with the investment decisions that are made by the fund, which will then encourage contributors. So for starters, we are proposing the co-option of Accra Benham Concern to the Board of Trustees. The regulations allow for co-optation of other persons. So we are proposing that Accra, who is you heard his comments on the two projects. He knows everything about money. He knows where the money is. He knows how to find it, and he knows how to use it. That's how I've come to know him in the last year or two. So the treasurer, Accra Antoinette Kofi, is also another financial expert. The executive committee is convinced that once they get involved, it should be, that's not going to be the end of it. We are going to take a more active engagement with the Endowment Trust Fund. We're going to mobilize money. We are going to help them to make the right investment decisions. We want to get the trust fund to inspire confidence in our press and others. And so we're going to do everything possible to assist the Board of Trustees to be able to raise this $1 million within the next 12 months. And before we are 100 years old, we have $10 million invested in the name of the Achimota School Endowment Trust Fund. So if by hearing that there are problems, you are thinking that, oh, why should I put my money in the distance? You should know that arrangements have been made to secure your funds and also make sure that the funds grow. They grow as rapidly as they can in order to ensure that we are able to achieve the objective of creating that new Achimota or developing that new Achimota. So let me invite the treasurer to walk us through the accounts.
Thank you very much, Accra.
Good afternoon once again, fellow members. I'd like to take us briefly through the Achimota School Endowment Trust Fund accounts. I'll start off with the statement of financial position as at 31st December 2020. So the cash and bank balances at the end of 2020 was about 10,976, down from 16,394 in 2019. I believe Afra Ivan Dimensan spoke to some of the things that accounted for this. Sundry debtors is an amount that is owed the Endowment Trust Fund by the main Old Achimota Association, for which payments would be made in 2021. Investment balances went down from 280,414 at the end of 2019 to 243,593. And this was mainly the result of the redemption of the equivalent of $5,000, which was about 26,350, which a donation. There was a redemption to donate to the Science Block Fund, and that's what accounted for that decline. In addition to that, the investments are mostly held in the Databank EPAC Fund. The value of the fund, because of the impact of COVID, went down in 2020, and that also accounted for part of the decline. And that led to us having current assets of 270,715 at the end of 2020, compared to 312,954 at the end of 2019. On the liability side, we had accruals of 15,501, slightly up from the 2019 balance of 13,858. The additional accrual was mainly for SNET and payee taxes in December that were to be paid in January. Our accumulated fund went down as a result of all these from 299,096 to 255,215 at the end of 2020. And that was our statement of financial position as at 31st December 2020. On our income and expenditure statement for the year ended 31st December, we made a deficit of 43,881. Income was mainly from the year group levies, which as Professor Dimensa said, went up year on year. However, investment income went down partly because of the redemption. And you will see note 6 on page 8 of the endowment fund accounts, which gives you a breakdown of the income number. But our total income for the year was 23,447, down from 31,709 in 2019. Our expenditure, on the other hand, more than doubled. And part of that is the donation that was made to the OA for the Science Block Fund, and also the impairment loss that we had to take on the value of our impact fund. And that is what led to the deficit for the year 2020. And the movement in our accumulated fund is a result of the balance that was brought forward at the 1st of January, less the deficit that we need for the year, and our accumulated fund for the Endowment Trust Fund, as at 31st December, was valued at 255,250. So, Mr. Accra President, on page 6, we have the net cash flow. I've spoken to the items that make this up. So I'll only comment on the cash and cash equivalent at the end of the year, which was the near cash amounts that we held. And it was 10,976 as shown in the statement of financial position, down from 16,394 in 2019. A lot of the funds held in the Endowment Trust Fund was actually held on investments. And that brings me to the end of the presentation, unless there are specific questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Treasurer. Maybe I invite the auditor to give us his assessment
independent auditor's report to the members of Atlanta School Endowment Transfer. Opinion. I read the opinion and then read the report on other legal and regulatory requirements. We have audited our company financial statements of Atlanta School Endowment Transfer, which comprise of a statement of financial position as at 31st December 2020, income and expenditure statement, and accumulated fund account, and cash flow statement for the year then ended, and notes to the financial statement, which include a summary of significant accounting policies as set out on pages 7 to 10. In our opinion, proper books of account have been kept, and the financial statements, which are in agreement therewith, give a true and fair view of the state of affairs of the fund at 31st December 2020, and of the income and expenditure statement and cash flow statement for the year then ended, and comply with the International Financial Reporting Standards and the Ghana Companies Act 2019 at 992. Report on other legal and regulatory requirements. Compliance with the requirements of Section 137 of the Companies Act 2019 at 992. We have obtained all the information and explanations which, to the best of our knowledge and belief, were necessary for the purpose of our audit. In our opinion, proper books of account have been kept, and the balance sheet and income expenditure and aggregated fund account and agreement with the books of account, signed by Apostle Mulai on behalf of BL and Associates, dated 9th June 2021. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Accra Apostle Mulai. Are there any comments, questions on the audits, the financial statement? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You did mention that the Achimota line, the line, is vested in the council and is being managed by the board. Am I correct? Okay. So that includes all the land that was previously taken over by around. So those have been commercially. Those pieces of land have been commercially developed, and now they belong to us. Is that correct?
They have always belonged to us.
But they were a village, Christian village, and what have you. Today they are commercially developed. Their values are high. Is there any reason why the term endowment, which accrues to Achimota School, now we are commercially developed land, and we are depending on 500 cedis a year from Accra to raise money for the endowment fund? My question is, with all this land that Achimota School has, probably the biggest land piece, I don't know about that one, and yet we cannot leverage that, we cannot leverage the commercial side of it to raise an endowment fund. Is there any restrictions that maybe the legal people can tell us why we cannot do that?
Can you introduce yourself?
Oh, my name is Patrick Nenson. I'm from Yellow House, and I'm right after Dr. Kwame Wache in 1964. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Accra. You asked a very important question, and indeed, that is what we are all working towards. I don't know if you were here when I spoke about the creation of a land trust and the development of a trust deed, and what has ensued with the Ministry of Education. Indeed, that is the whole idea, that we'll be able to generate revenue from all the lands that have been encroached upon. But we haven't, there's a court ruling in our favor, but we haven't been able to actualize or realize put in place the arrangements that would give us access to those facilities and hence generate the revenues that you talk about. Yes, it is certainly on the cards, and we intend by all means to enforce to the letter the ruling of the courts.
Okay.
In America, Family knows. The schools that have endowment fund that were so heavy when we had problems with apartheid, we even fought against those schools, the Harvards, the Princetons, and what have you, because they had raised so much money. And my question is, what did Harvard have other than being a school and with the products coming out? We have this land. Is it a good asset when you say endowment and yet we are not leveraging it? I have a question with that. Why do we have to go to Ministry of Education? We had this land in 1927 and nobody has thought about leveraging the ownership of all this land in Accra, our capital. I don't understand that. Why do we have to go to Ministry of Education? We owned it before Ministry of Education. And I haven't heard of any assignment as was done for minerals in our town that Kwame Nkrumah said is in the name of the state. This land has not been taken over by Ministry of Education. Why can't we act and raise the fund to do what we have to, where we have to put that motor now, please?
I understand fully everything that you said, and what you're saying is ideally what should be. Ideally what should be. But we are dealing here with the Ghanaian reality. The Achimota School is a Ghanaian public school, and being a public school, the understanding that different governments have had about how far you can go in asserting yourself as an autonomous entity. This is a vary from Kwame Nkrumah days through the military up to now. So the challenges that we face today have arisen largely because the school has not been able to assert its authority over all of the land. Many of the lands that have been encroached upon have been done with the full connivance of public authorities, whether it's the police, whether it's the Ghana Education Service, whether it's the health service, and so on. A lot of the losses have been done with the full connivance of national or public authorities. What we are trying to do is save what is still available and ensure that we get some revenue from what may have been lost in the past. That's what we are trying to do. So we will get there to the point, I don't know where we will get there completely, but we'll get to a point where the lands generate some revenue for the school. But it shouldn't take away from the obligations of the people who, you mentioned Harvard, you mentioned Yale. The alumni of those universities make contributions, very significant contributions, in addition to whatever is coming from their investments. So we have a two-pronged approach, the lands and then the people. We are doing the same thing, our lands and then our people. Until the lands become a major viable source of revenue, we have to count on the people. That's what we are doing. I hope it makes sense. So can I get a motion for us to you can tell your own motion. You got it. The trigger will move and somebody will say, oh, all right.
Mr. President, I move for the adoption of the report of the Endowment Trust Fund, the financial statements.
Thank you. Seconded by Press Harold. Thank you very much. Any counter motion? Thank you very much. So the report is adopted. The next item, okay, let's do the OA accounts first. Then let's do the launch of the campaign on the last week. So, Madam Treasurer, if you can present the financial statements.
Thank you, Dr. President. So I'll take us to the accounts of the Old Achimota Association. So on page 4, I'll start on page 4 of the report, which is a statement of financial position as at 31st December 2020. Our fixed assets were fully depreciated, and so we had a nil balance for both 2019 and 2020. On our current assets, we had investments valued at 74,958, up from the 2019 balance of 57,794. We held cash and bank balances of 378,699, down from the 2019 closing balance of 818,648. This led to us holding assets of 453,657, down from the 876,442 that we held in 2019. The reduction mainly went into the science block fund, the building of the science block. We collected some monies in previous years that were actually deployed in the year 2020, and that is why you see the reduction in the investments and cash and bank balances that we held. On the liability side, we held accounts payable and accruals of 41,567, down from 70,092 in 2019. And our net current asset position was 412,090 cedis, down from 806,350 in 2019. When we saw the Endowment Trust Fund accounts, we did speak about the loan that was owed them by the Old Achimota Association. That is represented at cost in the statement of financial position. And when you take that out, we have net assets of 402,090 cedis, down from 796,350 from 2019. On our statement of income and expenditure for the year ended 31st December 2020, we raised income of 2,305,254 cedis. And we spent an amount of 2,704,455 cedis, leading to a deficit of 399,201. We made other income, which was interest on treasury bills, of 4,941, and that brought our deficit for the year to 394,260. As mentioned, the biggest item on the expenditure was related to payments for the science block. and that is the main driver for the deficit for the year. Our accumulated fund for the year ended 31st December 2020 started with a balance of 796,350. Applying the deficit for the year 2020, our accumulated fund position at the end of 31st December 2020 was 402,090 cedis. The statement of cash flows highlights what we've just spoken about. It starts off with a deficit for the year. It adjusted for increase in accounts payables and accruals, and then there's the decrease in our cash and cash equivalents for the year. When that is adjusted off the cash and cash equivalent at the beginning of the year, it takes us to the balance we see on our statement of financial position, which is 453,657. And this is broken down into a cash at bank of 378,699, mutual funds 46,696, and then treasury bills of 28,262. These statements, together with the notes to the financial statements, represent the position of the Old Achimota Association for the year ended 31st December 2020. There are more details in the notes. I will take these as read, unless there are specific questions, which I will then address. In the interim, I will ask our auditor to read out this.
Independent Auditor's Report to the members of Old Achimota Association. Opinion. We have audited our company financial statements of Old Achimota Association, which comprise of a statement of financial position as of 31st December 2020, income and expenditure statement, and accumulated fund account, and cash flow statement for the year then ended, and notes to the financial statements, which includes summary of significant accounting policies as set out on pages 7 to 10. In our opinion, proper books of account have been kept, and the financial statements, which are an agreement therewith, give a true and fair view of the state of affairs of the association as of December 31st, 2020, on the income and expenditure statement and cash flow statement for the year they ended, and comply with international financial reporting standards, the Ghana Companies Act 2019, Act 992. Report on other legal and regulatory requirements. Compliance with the requirements of Section 137 of the Companies Act 2019, Act 992. We have obtained all the information and explanations which, to the best of our knowledge and belief, were necessary for the purpose of our audit. In our opinion, proper books of account have been kept, and the statement of financial position and income statement and operating fund account are in agreement with the books of account, signed by Osmanai on behalf of DLN Associates, dated 11th June 2021. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there questions, comments from anybody, including those online? If there are any persons online who want to make any statements, please do so now.
On Zoom. I hear there's somebody on Zoom who wants to speak.
Yeah, I don't know why. Laura, can you get them to speak? What's the name? Accra, could you answer, please speak out. We are listening to you on Zoom.
Thank you. Regarding the fundraising issue, and somebody mentioned the Ivy League, I have a close relative who worked in that capacity for one of the Ivy League schools. And also, among the chorus are many lawyers and many bankers. It just mystifies me that we seem so helpless. So, I'm going to ask whether I have your permission. Well, how should I say? I cannot volunteer for this relative of mine. Okay? This relative of mine is not an Accra, although they are a child of an Accra. But I want to know whether I have your permission to discuss with this person how they do it in the U.S. Actually, in the U.S., I'm a professor in the U.S., and I don't want to call the meeting, but every college, which is done at the before faculty, every college has a small group of people who are doing fundraising for the college. The university as a whole has a big organization who raise funds for the university. And all the small groups in the colleges report to the big group at the university. I just want to, but in Ghana, we're not in the US, so I'm not saying that we should do exactly what they do in the US. But it seems to me that it should be possible for us to tap those who have a little bit of expertise there. And they don't have to be full-time, the US are called development officer. That's a full-time job. So I'm going to stop talking, but I need someone to say, I can ask this person whether they will be willing to be available to share a little bit with somebody. There's no guarantee because the person is not online now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Akra Kujasa. We have heard you, and we'll be very happy to talk to whoever you put us in touch with. Thank you very, very much. Akra.
Well, what he was suggesting, incidentally, may I say that he was in Form 1 when I was in Lower 6. Yeah. With the Legon Endowment, we tried to engage a subsection of JP Morgan of the US who were going to raise funds on the basis of what is done in the US. But once again, we came against the same bottleneck where they were saying that if they don't raise any funds at all in any given year, they still take a cut, albeit lower, of whatever we have in our coffers, albeit lower than whatever. But if they raise any funds over and above what we have, then their cut goes higher. So I think in the US too, they may be facing similar bottlenecks, only that with them, they are always able to raise some funds through other means, which luxury we don't see as yet to have. We don't have situations where people die and leave their whole wealth to a school. You have to take care of your family first. If you have a house that you don't leave it to your children or your nephews, if you happen to be an account, you are in trouble. So these are some of the obstacles that we have been facing in this respect.
Thank you. Is there anybody else online on Zoom who wants to speak? Anybody else on Zoom who has a hand up? If no, can I get a motion for us to adopt? Sure, okay.
It's a small thing, I used to do it. The accounts of both the endowment fund and the OA look to be very good, very neat, very well prepared. However, I had a little difficulty just now looking at the accounts to see in your synchronization if the endowment fund and the OA collaborated, because your outstanding balances of the two sides are different. There must be a good decision. Please let us know.
No, apart from which of the outstanding balances? Is it on the face of the account?
I have no, I don't know which one is correct.
Okay.
In the OA accounts, the ASCTF owes, and the OA owes 18,000 or so.
Okay.
In the other account, it's 16,000.
Okay.
Which is right.
All right. So I'll take that. So in the endowment fund account, it shows both the principal of 10,000 and the accrued interest to the end of 2019. is missing the accrued interest for 2020. In the OA account, it shows the full accrued interest till the end of 2020. That's where the break is.
Are you satisfied? Are you satisfied?
Yes, in many ways. And since they are close to this meeting, I'm surprised I don't know.
Okay. Thank you. Since you have you're satisfied, why don't you move for us to? Sorry? Good. I didn't see. That was for the first one. So I grab the who moves.
You are going to take me.
I am encouraging you.
I saw you.
Seconded by Alexa Matthew. Sorry. Thank you very much. So we've adopted the financial statement as a true record of finances, and the auditor has established that they've been kept, and we've adopted this as a record of transactions. Thank you very, very much. Yeah. So now we go to authorization of the executive committee to fix the auditor's fees. Can I get a motion for authorizing the executive committee to do that? Yes, yeah. Can I get someone to move, somebody outside of the executive committee? Right? With the, Secretary moves, seconded by Yours coming, yes. Each year will be that. 62, thank you very, very much. So the executive committee will fix the auditor's fees. Shall we now go to the launch of the new capital? I've given you the main reasons why we are trying to do it. I'm now going to invite Gloria to play a video of what we are going to use to raise the funds. But before she does, I want to know that anybody who thinks we shouldn't waste our time with this $1 million. If anybody who thinks it's a bad idea, okay, anyway, I would not be surprised if you. Yeah. So, Lydia, Gloria, please show us those two videos and let them choose. I hear Accra and Monterey, OA 1989, think that $1 million is too small.
She's the head of all the whole, she's the spoon of whom we boast.
came up with this video, one where the school song is sung and you heard it, and the other one, it comes in the form of a jazz presentation. So I wanted me to choose one, and I said no. I'm a Democrat, so I will let the oppressed themselves decide what they want. The general, we are hoping that sponsors from the radio and TV stations will take this and then regularly throughout the year, they will play it to remind our press to make contributions. We are expecting that you will send it to your classmates wherever they are in the world, so they know it. Whenever they hear it, they will know that they have to make a contribution, whether it's $5, whether it's $10, whether it's $1,000. And every Accra, everywhere in the world, hears it and knows that we are trying to raise $1 million at least in 1 year. I've seen a question come from online asking how we arrived at the $1 million. How we arrived at $1 million. We are now in the process of doing the strategic plan. And the 1 million is based on what it took us to do the science block. The science block cost us almost $1 million. So if we want to do, so it's an indication of the strength of our press. So we are guided by that. So the 1 million is our target for 1 year. We know that our press can provide 1 million in 1 year. That's the bottom line. If we are able to do more than 1 million, we'll be more than pleased. But we know that our target is by 2027. We have $10 million there. $10 million invested. You look at the conservative rate of return, we are the experts. About 50% or too much. 10%. Yeah. That gives us an amount. So the school will be getting what $1 million every year to run, repair bungalows, repair houses, fix the games field, $1 million. Now we buy reagents for the science lab and so on. It's far more than they are spending today. So come 2027, Achimota School, from the investments made by old Achimotans, will be getting about $1 million every year to run the school on top of whatever the Ghana government gives it. That's the thinking behind all of what we are doing. Accra Mesa, if our calculations work on the land system that we are trying to do with the trust, the land trust, if it works, we are looking at about $5 million a year. But they can't hear me. Oh, I'm sorry. There's a proposal on the please. Whoever, let the person speak. Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I realize that Achimota School is a secondary school or high school, not a university. But some of you have heard that one of the prominent people in Ghana is being given an honorary doctorate by the University in the UK. I work in a university in the US, so I suspect I know the reason. I suspect they want money. Now, part of what I would suggest is that if you want to raise $1 million, the leadership should discuss with some people and try to find a way to trick them to give $2,000, $5,000, $20,000. Then when they're advertising, they can say for sure that some of your Accra brothers and sisters have already promised us, $50,000. I mean, we need some concrete thing. I myself, if I were a businessman, I would tell you exactly how much I'm going to give. But nobody has come to me. The leadership has to come to me. I'm a poor school teacher. But the leadership can come to me and say, look, our brother, our sister, have you started giving something to Achimota School since you left? How much have you given? Very soon you're going to go to heaven. So think about it. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, the wonderful idea. We'll definitely consider it. We'll take all the suggestions that we get from here to the executive committee and make sure that they are well represented in the strategic plan that we're going to work with. Yeah.
Fellow Across, I would also like to point out that the intention is to recognize anyone who donates $1,000 to this campaign. We are going to put up a wall, right, and all the names will be listed on the wall, recognized in a prominent place in the school. We are currently having a discussion regarding the location so that there is some concrete recognition of all those who contributed as well. As Prof said, if you are able to contribute less than $1,000, we are grateful for that and we will recognize it in appropriate ways as well. But regarding this fundraising drive, the other reason why it's important is because as we are pushing for autonomy for the school, at some point, right, we will need to support the school because if we want to make it independent, we cannot have a school that is independent and still running to the government to write checks to pay teachers and to buy reagents and all of that. So the two go hand in hand. As we strive for independence, we also need to support the school properly in financial ways. All right. Accra Beyond Aid, as counts.
Who's online?
What does one get for making a contribution or helping to raise savings?
Okay, we have just answered that. That's what Accra Yao was talking about. If you give us $1,000, your name will be engraved on a wall somewhere near the administration block. The location is still under discussion, but your name will permanently engraved on the wall so that your children and your grandchildren, great-grandchildren can always see what their father or mother did.
Okay, another one.
Mm-hmm.
Acres are always willing and happy to support the school. May I know if there's any policy to assist Acres in getting their children into this amiable school?
Yes, there's a policy that grants us some protocol admissions. The number is always negotiated. But many Acres have had their children, their nephews and nieces come into the school through the protocol admissions given to OAA. Before you can take advantage of it, you must have paid your dues and all other obligations that you have.
From Accra, Philip Abuaji. He says, I would like to propose that the endowment fund be invested with government and not private funds.
Okay, we have heard it. The fund managers will determine that. The fund managers will determine that. So the suggestion will be considered by the fund managers. Any more?
Yes, someone is KDD. He says, can I suggest not only your name, but include house? I think when we are raising the...
Okay. All right. But by adding the house, I think what you've done is, for the science block, we added the year group. So it was your name and your year group. That should be sufficient.
Okay, this is from Accra Shanti. He says, can we get a more professional video, something more appealing, that speaks to the conscience of Acres worldwide and other corporate bodies too?
Okay, we will think about it.
This is a question.
Yeah.
Just a follow-up on the comments on the video.
Yes.
My name is Eric Njari, 2003 year group. I was just asking, is there a way we can be strategic about involving the younger Accras? Because, I've seen the video. It won't attract me and the younger generation. Right? That is the first thing. The second thing is, we are talking about $1,000 per person and order. So if I'm a younger generation, let's go like 2 years ago or 5 years ago, let's say counting from 2000 to current state, like what can we do to be able to entice us to start contributing in our own little way than to wait till we are older or in a bigger position before we can give out $1,000 or $2,000?
By the way, the person who made the video is still next to you. I think it was your classmate. Is she not your classmate? So it was made by a young person. But she's also mindful of the fact that the people who are likely to contribute are older. Yes, that's the reality. In the narrative, it's made clear that no amount is too small. So for your classmates, if they want to, but you're able to organize parties where you spend more than $1,000. I know your classmates, you do parties where you spend more than that. So how do we bring to your classmates the idea that some of the money that we spend on ourselves, we can give to the school? So I'll be very happy to come and talk to your groups, and the offer you've made that let's do something. I know what you did with the art block, with the art school. So bring us something. There's nothing wrong with having several different videos for different audiences. So we can look at that. Okay. I have three. Let me start with the old one first. Then I'll come to the other old one here. Then I'll finish with you.
Yeah, I remember we commissioned Accra New Motorway to make a similar video for us, which the endowment fund looked at, asked for modifications to it. I think we even paid for it. What I can't remember is what has happened to it. Whether we handed it over to you and nothing came out of it anymore. Or whether the motorway never finished the final version.
We will look for it. We'll find out.
In talking about the fund, one of the things that the school is also looking at is this whole idea of how do you recognize contribution. Like in some places, naming, buildings after people, naming institute. It's a much more general thing. Clearly, somebody is willing to give $1 million. Probably, the world is not enough. So that discussion is also going on. The other comment I also like to make is that one component is the amount that people give. What we should also look for is the breadth, meaning as many people as possible. For example, in the US, we want 100% contribution, even if you give $1. For example, people who just graduated a year ago, they go after them to make sure that that class contributes 100%, even though some may be giving only $5. Because once you get into the habit of giving, then they're likely to give continuously. And that ties back to the database. Knowing where Accras are, who the Accras are, and so on and so forth, is critical to the fundraising. So again, that's another thing that the executive committee is seriously looking at.
Thank you very much. Let me take.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Our executive committee of 1997, there are 11 of us, and 2 of us are present here. Accra, Ravnita Tamil and myself, and we are pledging $1,000 each. And as we were sitting here, I was observing the Zoom. I realized a lot of my senior colleagues at the back, Accra Patrick Sobojo, Accra Kofi Ebilabi, these are extremely wealthy, and I've seen some judges, but I don't want to be in contempt. So I think in the chat box, if you just make your pledge now, I'll volunteer. I have a PA who was in Livingston House 2015, very effective long time. My driver is available. Make your pledges in the chat box. Tomorrow we'll be at the office to pick up the check. It's as easy as that. We can get $1,000 per 1,000 people. We can get it today. My only appeal is let's raise it to $10 million. That is my only appeal. Thank you.
Self-government across beyond age. You are good. Edward.
Hello.
Yeah, mine will be short. So to go with the message, it was mentioned along the line, we need some influential occurrence. And when I was looking through the brochure that has been given to us, one of the think tanks of the endowment fund is even our own honorable finance minister, Kenneth Oreto. We could get him first to donate and make a message that Achimota made me who I am. As such, I'm promising to donate so much, you also donate. Then, back to what my senior said about the threshold, so to speak. Do we, for example, know that we have about 10,000 Akureans who we can reach? And know that if it's not even 1,000 and it's 100, when we multiply, we'll still get. Because if we take about 10 years back, probably most of them don't have jobs and we cannot reach $1,000. So then we are still looking at the older folks who probably are also in retirement and paying for grandchildren fees and all that. So let's look at these things.
Thank you very, very much. Those on the line.
This is from Accra, Kweku Sechi Ado. Can I recommend that younger Accra year groups come together to contribute in bulk so that they can be recognized as a group?
Sure. We fully agree with him. Accra Kweku Sechi Ado, we agree with you. We did that for the science block and we will do it again on this one. Okay. Kweku Sechi Ado, how much are you pledging? Kweku Sechi Ado, how much are you pledging?
I'll pledge in chambers.
In chambers. Okay, thank you.
I'm definitely going to contribute.
Definitely, very good. We thank you very much. We appreciate it. Any more online?
Okay, so this is from YouTube. How are we going to ensure that students have devices to utilize the connectivity that will be assured with the implementation?
We have already, in the new science block, installed smart boards. There's already a program that we are discussing with the school that would allow students in the various houses to also have access to various gadgets, including laptops. There's a project that was introduced by the Ministry of Education that allows schools to have Xbox, yes. So there are a number of things going on. The project that the 97-year group is introducing will connect all the houses that we have on the compound. So students will have Wi-Fi access in their rooms. Stop it, please. Any other?
No, thank you.
Okay. There was a Chief.
Okay, so I'm Charles Mapadui from the 2004 year. Yes. I think the first suggestion I had, my brother came here and said trying to use influential people in terms of doing it. I mean, I hear people like this, I think we have a member of parliament. If we go and we try and put the camera on him and he donates, I believe it's going to encourage my other year group friends and join. I don't know if we could also look at getting a kind of an amount each year group would have to pay. So that we say maybe from the year 91 to from the year 2000, each year group may be supposed to pay $20,000 or supposed to try and raise this amount. So that there's that sense of encouragement of the year group president and its members to try and identify people who would in turn help in generating those amounts. But if you circulate the videos and you put it on the WhatsApp platform, I mean, they just look at it and that is it. But let's say if you see this particular year group is supposed to pay, let's say, $20,000 out of this amount, they will in turn have to sit and identify the people that would, help in terms of payment. Again, I think the ceiling on the $1,000 is, quite on the high side. I think, as someone said, we can target the young ones who have just finished school. So if we can get the award system, okay, for $1,000, we are going to do this. Those going to pay, let's say, $500, we are going to do this for them. Maybe $200, we are going to do this. So that we don't lose out on those down there who can, the way we could get a lot, but then my concentration will be so much on the $1,000 and the $1,000, and then we leave those down there out. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ralph.
Thank you very much. Just a couple of comments. So the whole video on the new Achimota, very fantastic. What's missing for me is what the money will be used for, and if there's some sort of blueprints that can be shared over a period of time, because that will speak to my conscience and make me want to contribute. Then secondly, I just want to share some feedback on the 1997, how we found ourselves, because when we identified our project, or even prior to that, we had to find ourselves, and there were about, the previous executive, we had less than 100 active email addresses, not even active members, just active email addresses. And I recall when I went to see Auntie Eunice in the secretariat, and she gave us an admission list, our 1995 admission list, not our graduation list in 97. So what we then did was we went back, we looked at that admission list, and we launched the campaign, Finding Akura 450. So we were saying, let's try and find 450 of us. On the admission list, there was about 520. So we ran that campaign, and very surprisingly, in less than 8 weeks, we found 420. And we've got full details, first names, married names, professions, locations, cities, and we shared that database with the secretary. And it's something I think OANET executive should look at to try and find Akuras to drive this initiative.
Thank you very, very much.
Accra Isaac Quist. He's asking, is the Achimota Golf Club going to contribute to the endowment fund?
We will certainly appeal to them. We will appeal to them for support.
Good evening. It's Mama Kita. Yes, for the fundraising, I know that a lot of people here are choral music or people who love classical music and all that. So you can organize the program. I know that right now the COVID, it's now coming down. So you can organize a choral program involving the students in the school allow and other actors come and perform. You can use the carols service to raise funds, maybe the yearly fund, Thanksgiving service, Founders Day. It's also raise funds towards all these projects. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. I think let's take this last comment and then we move on.
Thank you very much. So my name is Ezekiel, 2013 year group. So I think I have a strategy that we can employ to get the younger generation across to be involved in terms of the fundraising efforts. Because we have the energy, and even though we do not have the money, we can be able to leverage on that energy to get people outside the Accra fraternity to contribute. And I think that would be one way where if you're able to set targets for the various year group within the younger generation, even if that year group is not able to meet that target, they can be able to collaborate with another year group, and collectively, they can be able to meet that particular target. Because these young people are willing to go out to door to campaign. They've been doing it for the politicians and making them win their campaigns. So we can be able to use this strategy to also get them to go out there, be knocking on doors, to also get people to contribute towards this. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
As chairman of the Endowment Fund Committee, I'm really very happy to hear this suggestion coming, because we tried to do something similar. This Agri Chapel that we are sitting in, when we were in Form 1, we were given little notebooks, which whenever we went on holidays, we tried to raise funds from our uncles and aunties. If it was 6 pence, 3 pence, they would write it in, and then when you come to school, you come and make an account. And the highest fundraiser was given a prize at the end of the year during prize giving day. I remember when Sylvia, Sylvia, what she did was that the father was a high court judge. So she would always go and sit in front of the high court. And every lawyer, every judge that passed, she would give the notebook to him or her to sign and give 1 shilling, 2 shillings. She always won the prize. We tried to do that for the current generation, partly because they spend only 3 years here. And by the time they leave, they don't have that spirit of the school that we who spent 7 years have. And we thought that if they were involved in the 3 years, during holidays, on their own, voluntarily, to do this sort of thing, they will develop that will to raise funds for the school. But in the long run, we're told that human rights, Ghana Education Service will not be in favor. So we had to abandon that idea also. But if I hear that now, those of you who have left school, albeit only recently, can do that, I think we should give them all the support to do it.
Hello.
Yes.
Okay, this is from Accra DV Osei. Let's look at options and encourage Accras to opt for one, monthly installments of $1,000 by in 10 months or to 12 months, the person will have been able to achieve it. Then quarterly, $250, then once payment, $1,000.
Okay. We accept it. You know, all the ideas that are coming up here, the executive committee, we have a finance subcommittee. We're going to look at all of these and then see how best to put them into practice. So, yes, madam. Please.
I know that Ajimota is a very good school. Everybody wants to have Ajimota, but we have so many problems. I have contributed before towards raising funds for the school. But today it looks like we are going through so many programs to raise funds for the school. I would say that I've paid $5,000 for the $1 million we are looking. And I think this is
Thank you. Accra, to your head, Well, but Einstein has pledged $5,000. $5,000. Yes. Thank you very, 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 very much. You made my day. I've not slept well for some time. This week, I will really sleep.
Okay, so I'm making a pledge on behalf of my cousins in the States. We have about 6 or 5, but we are pledging $5,000. The what's it? That's the what's it.
The Boateng family is pledging $5,000. Yeah, at the beginning of the meeting, I wasn't sure how things were going to go. After listening to Kwame Boateng, after listening to Edmond Yuredu, after listening to Rama Gaisen, now the Boateng family, and Obuse Giano online, who is going to make his amount known in chambers. So we are living here with at least some $15,000 pledge. I know that from the executive committee, you have already pledged $1,000 at least, he said. Harold is already pledged $1,000. True or false?
My wife and I will pledge $5,000.
I brought my watch's wife is my classmate. So if he's being $5,000 with my classmate, I will tell all the classmates to talk to their husbands to see what they can do. My grandmother is the Chief Finance Officer of Absa Bank. You know the please make your own commitment.
Well, personally, I pledge $1,000.
All right, and Accra Joel was the one who brought the 1,000 idea. Joel, are you there? All right.
Some people benefited from the school more than others. Those who found wives here, like Joel, and Prof yourself. So you can't do 1,000. You benefited more than others.
I brought ideas. Don't worry. My wife and I will do 5,000. So today we are living here with at least $30,000. All right. So I think that's a good point to end this discussion. The last item. They are pledges online. Okay. How many? Sorry? We'll come back to them. Yeah. The final item is the school centenary celebration. Basically, what I wanted to hear from you is some kind of brainstorming. What do you want us to do for the centenary? A few press have approached me, like, what are we going to do, what are we going to do? And I always said it was too far away for us to, but it's how many years? 6 years away. Is it 6 years? Yeah, it's not too far away. One of the suggestions that we have put forward at the executive committee is to construct the auditorium to replace the science lecture theater. That's one thing that we have proposed. Are there any things that our press think we should be doing for the school as it turns 100? This is open. Yes. Thank you, thank you.
DV Osei.
I think it's Daniel Victor said.
One of the things that we've been discussing in the executive committee is we do not want to stop the activities of the year groups because that's important. You know. On the other hand, there are some big projects which we can only do at the OAA level. So what we are thinking is that we will continue with the year group projects. But then every so often, we will do a big project for the OAA. So that's sort of the model that we are thinking of. You know, so if we can do that, you know, there are projects which are just beyond, you know, the capacity of, you know, a single or maybe even 3 year groups. But it can be done, for example, the science block could not have been done by a year group. But at the OAA level, you know, it can be done. So this is what, so when we think of the anniversary, the 100th anniversary, we are thinking of a big project. You know, not the kind of thing that will be done by a single year group.
Yes, and in addition to that, one of the things we are thinking of is, for instance, with the solar project which is going on, the 7181 are looking at the 2 assembly halls, and then we are looking at Ministry of Energy coming in with a project funded by AFDB to do the main administration block. That is over $1 million. But we are also looking at getting each house to come together to fund the rewiring of their house and then the solar panel for each house. So this is something that we'll be taking up subsequently, so that each house will come up one way or the other when we get a final cost of what it will be for each house, so that the houses, starting with that house, we work for each one and then get done. Thank you very much. Yes.
Dear Mr. President, I see a certain conflict in terms of contribution between what the year groups are doing, what the houses are doing, and what the national OA is doing. My colleague shared a document with us not too long ago, where year groups are expected to be doing a project almost every 5 years. We in 97, for instance, when we finished Teachers Appreciation 5 years ago or 4 years ago, we began to contribute towards a silver jubilee. We are told there is something we needed to do at year 30 and thereafter. So, from a long-term planning perspective, at the year group level, there's always that engagement to contribute towards something. So then, if there are projects like this, it becomes conflicting. So my suggestion is that somebody suggested it earlier, I want to emphasize it, that this fundraising, we give quotas to the year groups, so that it is added to the year group contribution. And there is mobilization at the year group level is, a step down and perhaps more effective than at the national level. Thank you.
Thank you. I think you make an important point. As Rapani explained earlier, there are large capital projects that hardly any year group can fund. Hardly any year group can fund within a year. So it is those that the OAA, as an aggregated body, is undertaking. When it comes to legacy projects, year groups are free to choose whatever they want to do. My experience has been that sometimes year groups overstretch themselves. They take on projects that tend to drag for a long time because they are struggling with this. So if the OA is doing the large projects, year groups should be a bit more realistic and take things that will not overstretch them, bearing in mind that they also have obligations towards the overall project. So that's my advice, that let the OA do the big projects for the whole school, big construction, etc. let year groups, and there's a 12 list of things that you can do. Harold here is in charge of that, the 12 list. Pick things that will not break you down. That's the advice that I offer here. By all these, we will look at all the suggestions here, what year groups should do, and then they can factor that into whatever arrangements they make, and what individuals can do. And I'm very happy with the reception we have received today. It emboldens us to now work with your ideas to come up with things that will make all of us proud.
There's no single solution. There will be multiple ways of bringing in the funds. My experience at the year group level is that if you want to do solicitation only at the year group level, at the year group level, you are not likely to get people who want to contribute $5,000. At the OAA level, you can't. Because what happens at the year group level is we divide it among members of the year group. And nobody sort of is motivated to stand out. Whereas at the OAA level, that freedom exists. So let us combine the two and bring all these suggestions that have come together and try to see how best to merge all of this. I think the year group is important. We don't want to stop the year group. But as Prof said, if you are mindful that there are big projects going on at the OAA level, then essentially you can size the year group project accordingly so that you don't overstretch yourself.
Yes,
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the development of a sports gymnasium or a sports complex for the school not be something that would be big to celebrate as part of our 100th centenary? The reason why I say that we over the years we tend to focus on, in fact, science being one of it, and the library recently. But there hasn't been any effort placed on recreational activities and sports to help revive the old sports traditions that the school used to once enjoy.
Yeah, thank you very much. In fact, we are compiling a list of projects, and we are going to divide it. We are dividing it into projects which should be OAA-wide. In fact, it even goes, one of the suggestions that I have here goes beyond the boys' gym. They are looking at making the games field to almost tartan track stands so that we can train here, we can use it to make, that's a huge project in the school. So we have a series of projects that we are going to put together. So like the rehabilitation of the water supply system in the school. That is also something which 1 year group cannot take care of. Currently, GWCL is getting us an estimate of what it will cost to change the whole system and then to cut the water supply of the school from the other, when the tank is filled, it goes down to America. So, because we are all linked together, what can we do to ensure the water supply here? We are putting together all the various projects, the ones which should be overall, and then the ones which year groups can take, and the ones which we can get support from government, like what 7181 they are doing. They are working together with ECG, they are working together with the Ministry of Energy, with the water supply, they have brought GWCL on board. They've come around to look at it and they are taking estimates. So we are looking at it in different phases. When we get the full list out, we make it available to all our class so that year groups will know that this is what we can take. And we'll have cost estimates. So you know that this is something which as a year group we can take. And then there are certain things which we see will definitely go beyond the year groups and we'll have to do it at the higher level. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll wrap us up with it. Sorry? Akrapat, can you unmute yourself? We can't hear you because you are muted. I didn't hear you.
I'm sure he didn't join the audience.
I believe that, Mr. Chairman, I believe there are two of us. I don't know which one you're referring to. I'm referring to your father. If you know what your father is trying to say, you can say it. President Chairman, I have no idea. I will leave that to him. Thank you. Okay. So my question is: are there things? I've suggested one already. The auditorium. Are there any other? Yes, sir.
Students are ill. Do they go to the general hospital down the road? When the students are ill, do they go to the hospital down the road, or there's a special clinic for them? And if they go to the general hospital, are they given preferential?
Okay, so currently the Achimota Hospital is the district hospital for Okakwe North Municipal Assembly. This area is now Okakwe North Municipal Assembly. So it serves that dual purpose. It is no longer Achimota School Hospital only. They try to give a bit of a preference, but when there are cases, there are ways in which the school has liaised with them for it to be handled. But we also have the clinic behind Lugard House, which was rehabilitated recently. So the hospital assigns a medical assistant and sometimes a doctor to go over there to take care of the students. So if it is something little, you can stay there overnight. There are a few beds over there. If it is serious, then you go to the main hospital. Thank you.
That is satisfactory.
Not totally satisfactory, because a lot of the times it's a medical assistant who is over there, not a full doctor. So at one point in time, there was a suggestion to get Accra doctors to volunteer their times for free to come and then do that. That was a suggestion. In fact, there's a suggestion only to volunteer, Accra Photo and Accra Pesukuma. They were the only two who volunteered. And obviously it wasn't going to work because, so it's like looking at it long term. What should be done to strengthen what is on the campus? Thank you. Okay, yeah, so that's something. It is not on the list, so we'll do that. Thank you.
So the project will be to beef up the clinic. Okay, thank you. Accra, Pastor Pointe Jr., any commitments for any pledges from you? All right. So we will compile a list of potential projects that we can do for the centenary, post these, and then discuss with you. Basically, what we are doing is trying to get your approval as an AGM to begin planning projects. So far, we have the auditorium, we have the health post, we have the sports fields. We will develop these and let you know what is going to cost us. Any other business? Is there anything that is on any Accra's mind that he thinks the executive committee should know or do? Yes.
Please,
it's a comment. It's about I'm coming up at Chasmani. 12. It's about the upcoming National Science and Maths quiz. You should make it a target. You should empower the team and the teachers. I think the teachers are about 9. You should empower them and push the students.
Thank you very much. We will definitely do that again. I could do. I cried about why I was $79, $1,000. Clap for him.
Akura Akote Boteluku 99. I wanted to volunteer my services. I do a lot of polling for institutions and things like that. So if you want to do a survey, you have a list of projects you want people to vote on or give your opinion on, I'm happy to organize it free.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, sir. That's a BTA German. BTA German. I can do BTA business.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just 2 quick issues. I have seen many projects done by year groups here that have maintenance issues or get vandalized by thieves, etc. I just want year groups and the executive committee to look at security and maintenance of projects. We do beautiful projects, donate it to the school, and then there's a problem with it, and the headmistress is calling the year groups to come and fix it. But the year groups will also say, oh, we've given you the project, we expect you to maintain it. Or the recent one where thieves vandalized the beautiful project of the model kitchen near the dining hall. Number 2, I think we should also have a policy or put an action plan where we can encourage Akres to get into education and have them progress to come and lead the school. Presently, the whole school administration, where they meet at the leadership of the school administration, there's not a single Accra. A few years ago, we had about 2, the head and the assistant. Now it's 0. And it's sometimes very difficult to get Accra's very senior in GS. So I know Wesley Girls, they have a policy of trying to encourage the ladies from national service to get into education, rise through the system, and then be able to shortlist and get their heads. We can also look at that model and ensure that we get senior Accres, we get senior members of GS who are Accres, and then when they come and head the school and are managing all these millions of dollars, they know how to judiciously use their funds. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Accra Seralin.
She's muted.
You are muted.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, now can hear you.
Good. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you all very much for taking time out to be there. It's what everybody wishes for, that we'll be able to get together, put our shoulders to the wheel, and do for another Achimota. I have a couple of things that I want to raise. First of all, there is a little group of Akwaras with an online group, and we had been looking at the possible renaming of buildings and structures on Achimota School. We wrote to the board in November of 2019, before almighty COVID struck, with a proposal. We have not heard back yet. We are aware that the board has been met, but we're wondering whether we can have the weight of the OA push for this particular proposal. Specifically, it was to rename the art school after Kofi Ankiman. Most of the older Accras will know Kofi Ankiman, might even have been taught by Kofi Ankiman. But he is one of the big art figures of Ghana. So we thought that we could do that. And then following that, of course, it could be open and a lot of other structures, etc., could be named after specifically Ghanaians, not necessarily just Accra. So that is one. The second one, I have seen online on a lot of the Accra chat groups references to National Executive Committee. We do not have a National Executive Committee. We have an Executive Committee. The OA's Executive Committee is worldwide, it's not national. So if we can please make sure that we all accept that and use that nomenclature. Third, and maybe not a big thing, but a very big thing for me, please try and not use the Jubilee Club as table club. Can we find maybe a plain white cloth and put the crest on it, even the heads or so on? But I think we need to give the Jubilee Club its position. It is one of the symbols of Achimota. So, together with the crest, the Jubilee Club, in whatever color it comes, should be significant and treated with respect. Then finally, I pledge 1,000 Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. We have taken notes of all your 4 points, especially the last one. So we will do as you have said. Definitely, I mean, everything that you said is important, and it will be reflected in subsequent actions. Thank you very, very much. Any other business?
While we are talking of pledges, I would like to suggest and plead with, especially the older ones like me, that as you write your will, think of Achimota School. It is not a tradition in Ghana, but I think it is something worth, considering. That somewhere in there, you can make, Achimota one of your.
Thank you very, very much. It's one that I fully share. If there are no other matters to be discussed, either here or from online, can I get a motion for us to bring our meeting to a close? Are you quite in a hurry? I didn't finish talking and then you raised your hand. Okay, so Accra Harold Richardson moves, seconded by Accra Edmond Reid. So, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you very much for your participation, both physically and then virtually. I thank all our colleagues who made time, whether they were in the US or in the UK or Germany, South Africa, wherever they may have come from, Australia, making the time. I know some of you should have been in bed by now or being somewhere else at church or something. Yeah. So we thank you. Can I get a closing prayer? Would somebody online like to say the closing prayer? Any volunteer online to say the closing prayer? Sorry, okay, let him say the closing prayer.
Please. Has somebody been selected to say? Shall I go ahead?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Let's pray. Our Lord and Creator, I want to say thank you for all the things that you've done for us. You are the giver of wisdom. You are the giver of life. We thank you for all the ideas and all the suggestions that have been made. Thank you for the pledges, for endowing us with the funds to be able to pledge towards Achimota Amanda. I want to pray that even as these things as these plans are firmed up, we are going to let them be put to good use. Not that our name may go far, but that this nation will be filled with people who love nation, who love ourselves and our school. As those in attendance leave the meeting, we pray that you are going to take them all to their home safely. This is our prayer in the name of Jesus. Amen.